Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Live. Now, it's been just under a month since members of the ANC Youth League marched to the party's headquarters to demand the immediate leadership of that unit be disbanded. And now yet another affiliate to the party is handing over a memorandum addressed to the leadership. The Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association, or MKMVA, is demanding better treatment from the African National Congress, amongst other things. And they also want the establishment of a ministry specifically dedicated to veterans, in which was one of the resolutions of the 54th conference. So they say they have been forgotten seemingly by the party and being treated like beggars in the current democracy. So to tell us more about their plight and why they are embarking on this course of action, we're joined by Bafana Mahlabe, who is the Gauteng provincial spokesperson for the association. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you, Sakina. It's a pleasure.
So I have to ask, we saw, as indicated, the Youth League marching on Luthuli House. Now we've got MKMVA. What does this say about the organization? Is there no space internally for you to engage and raise these issues with the ANC?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Sakina, and the viewers at home. The issue here that is at the center of this is the matter that deals about the plight of the ex-combatants. You know, our concern is that the African National Congress hasn't taken time to analyze and properly process the issue of how do they handle with the integration of the ex-combatants into society. Because fact of the matter is that there's been so many engagements, there has been resolutions that have been taken from Polokwane up to Nazareth. And those resolutions are very clear. They are saying ex-combatants or MKMVA or MK must be used as a resource in the political sector and as well as in the security cluster. And that resolution says because we acknowledge the expertise that MK cadres have, that they can contribute constructively to the country. But for some odd reason, these resolutions are not being properly processed. They are ignored. As and when they are being implemented, it will be haphazardly. There is no coordinated and concerted effort to say, how do we process these once and for all? Because if you learn from other revolutions, every revolution take care of its combatants, you know, former fighters. And in this country, for some odd reason, we are being pushed to the side, you know, and we believe that we have a contribution to make. We fought for this country. We are actually not expecting anyone to do us a favor. We are expecting the government led by the African National Congress to do what is right by us, because we've got families. We must leave a legacy. We must not be beggars. Day in and day out, our members are dying as paupers, and we must knock at the doors as though people are doing us a favor, you know. So ex-combatants are a constituency that is important for this country to be taken care of. Now, we went to Luthuli House yesterday, not because we've got an issue with anyone, but because it's a revolutionary house, and that is our home. There is no other home that we know except Luthuli House. We went there peacefully, disciplined, and we acknowledge the leadership of the African National Congress as led by Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. We acknowledge it as the collective leadership with Isma Khashule as being the Secretary General. But we are also saying equally so, as much as there are issues that the ANC is dealing with, this matter cannot be pushed under the carpet.
So when you say that your members should be used as a resource, what exactly do you mean by that?
It's simply because we left this country. For instance, I was in Angola. I trained in Kibashi. And we closed the camps in Angola. We went to Tanzania and Uganda. I was part of the people who started the camps in Uganda with the late Commander Kofifi. You know, we are saying we've been trained in a variety of expertise. You know, we did firearms, we did engineering, we did artillery, we did MCW, which today is known as the intelligence work. So we are specialists in the security cluster and security matters. But when the ANC-led government considers people for deployment, for instance, I'll give you an example. There was an integration that was done in 1994 of former non-statutory forces and the SADF. That process, when it was done, there were a number of issues that we raised with the leadership to say, this process that you are subjecting us to, it's not necessarily meeting the requirements or the expectations that we had as a revolutionary force. Because as and when you lead the revolution, you lead it with certain expectations. Now, members of MKMVA and other non-statutory forces were subjected to a grueling process that was led by the British and other people to deploy the members of the former non-statutory forces. And up to today, when you look at SANDF, you look at SABC, you look at correctional services, you look at home affairs, you look at state security agency and metropolis departments, MKMVA and other non-statutory forces, they are not properly integrated in those structures. Instead, the former erstwhile forces are the ones that are benefiting more. And they are treated as though they are better than us. And we are presenting a very formidable case here to say we are equally qualified, we are equally competent because we trained and we've got skills to show. And I can give you a practical example. I'm a former chief of police in Eguruleni. You know, and the record is there to show that when you are given an opportunity, we do a great job. You know, General Spiwenyanda was the chief of the SNDF. You know, Pegicele was the former commissioner of the police. And all of these people are from MK. When you place them in a suitable position to do the work, they do a proper job. But the issue is that we are battling with is that for some reason, there are people who seem to be benefiting in the divisions of MKMVA to an extent that they want to factionalize even the structure called MKMVA.
Who are those people?
For their own purpose. It's within the leadership circles of the organization without referring to particular individuals, but they know it themselves that their struggles of factionalism and the patronage and issues of making sure that people are suppressed, it's affecting even the livelihood of MKMVA. So we are saying here to the leadership of the ANC, we are tired. Time is running out. Time for Jamaria, it's over. We don't want to be smooth-talked. We don't want to be pushed on the side as though we are a less important factor in the organization. We fought a national democratic...
Jamaria?
Jamaria is talks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jamaria, it's time for talking is over.
Okay.
Basically, they know it. They understand it, that language, you know. So we are saying the time of talking is over. It's time for implementation. Sakina, you cannot, 25 years down the line, expect members, former ex-combatants to die as paupers.
Okay, but you are part of the African National Congress, yes, who are the ruling party.
Yes.
What have they said to you?
The issue is, we are saying the plight of ex-combatants, it's not taking a center stage in the agenda.
But what has the ANC? You took your demands to the African National Congress. You've been raising them with the African National Congress since 1994.
Yes.
What have they been saying to you?
That is why we came to a point where we are now, where we are saying this march that we took to Luthuli House is not the end but the beginning of a rollout. We are going to do it all over. Next week on the 8th, we are going to Eguruleni. We are descending on Eguruleni to do the same thing. We are going to Joburg, to other regions, and dates will be given for that matter. So we are saying the leadership must begin to take this matter seriously, because what you do, they take our issues and put them in some committee there in the corner. I'll give an example. Previously in Eguruleni, they put it in the sports, in the MMC for sports, and they took it later to the office of the mayor, but there is no consistency. You know, there is a project called the Demilitarization Project in Eguruleni, where the former mayor, Dumankosi, was leading it. It was taken over by Ntombi Mekwe and then carried over to Mzwandile Masina. That document, somebody is sitting on it. Demilitarization Project, it's a council resolution that says members, ex-combatants must be integrated in the security cluster. But for some odd reason, we are deliberately ignored. And people want to bring all these sorts of bureaucratic processes to explain why they cannot accommodate us. It happens also in Gauteng as well.
It seems as though you're not getting any clear answers from the ANC.
We are not.
So what are you going to do? Because I'm reminded of a situation, and this happened at least at several municipalities in KZN, where you had members of MKMVA who went and basically forced themselves through nefarious ways onto these municipalities to get people employed, to get things that they wanted done. So Are we looking at facing a similar sort of situation once again?
It's going to be national.
So that same sort of situation
that you see in KZN is not an isolated matter. It's a frustration that is being vented out by members of Umkhonto weSizwe to say we've been knocking at these doors. We've had a number of engagements. We've had workshops. They for instance, let me give an example. They have established what they call military veterans directorates. You know what they do, Sakina? They give us an office with a director, with a desk, without no resources. The departments, the rest of the departments, they don't have in them a working process to say this is what we are going to do as departments, and they must be put also in the performance management of the leadership. For instance, if you go to the executive mayor, each department must have timelines, they must have commitments to say this is what we are going to do for military veterans. And one of the things that I want to emphasize in this interview is the fact that you cannot subject military veterans to the same processes as ordinary citizens, because we are a special case. You know, Sakina, we went to the bush,
but you're not the only military veterans. You think of the likes of Azanla, of Aplak, or combatants. What about them?
By the way, we include them, because they're part of us. You know, now I'm speaking on behalf of MKMVA. However, this thing extends to Azanla, it extends to PAC, it extends to every CMVO. All these former forces that fought, they are also taken into account. But the issue is, charity begins at home. You know, how can we expect them to deliver for Azanla or PAC or any other person if they cannot even deliver for us as MKMVA?
Here's a contentious question that has always been asked, and people have always said, you know, in as much as there were people who went into exile, the struggle was also very much alive right here in the streets of South Africa. What about those people who feel that they too have gone out and fought and made a contribution, who also are dying poor, homeless and unemployed? What about them?
We are fully behind those people, and we agree with them that the services that are due to them must be given to them. You know, however, we also need to put our record straight that as ex-combatants, we played a role. We delivered this freedom to our people. And we are expecting that as much as we are responding to the needs of our people, we must not forget about the people who sacrificed. I'm sitting here today, there are people that we left in the bushes of Angola who still must be repatriated into the country. There are people we left in Uganda, in Tanzania, in different parts of the African continent, you know, who their parents, some of them died without even having met them. You know, I'm from a township called Tutuza. There's a guy who fought along Solomon Mahlangu by the name of Monty Mutlou. You know, there is the likes of other people who sacrifice, but people know very little about these people, you know, to an extent that we feel that this issue, if the ANC is not addressing it, it's a ticking time bomb, because we don't have time on our side.
And that, I suppose, is the more concerning part, because you'd indicated earlier that you will do what MKMVA members have done in KZN, which, by the way, in certain instances have been illegal activity. They have gone in, they have threatened, and they basically have demanded and usurped power to do certain things in certain instances, at some point at gunpoint, where they went into municipalities and forced people to give contracts to members who belong to the association. You're not really telling me you're going to embark on that.
We cannot condone those kind of acts. We are not at that point.
But you know it has happened.
Say again?
You know it has happened.
Yes, indeed. We hear, like everyone else through the media, that certain incidents happened, because I was not there in Durban, so I cannot confirm for a fact that this is what happened. But I know for a fact that there were instances where extraordinary measures were taken to express their points.
That's been kind, extraordinary.
Yes, yes. I'm just expressing the point from my viewpoint.
That is criminal.
Yeah.
You cannot go and demand that contracts be given to you because you feel aggrieved as a member of MKMVA that you haven't received your just desserts.
That is why our march was peaceful. It was disciplined. We handed over the memorandum. We never vandalized anything. In fact, they should be appreciating what we did, because we are demonstrating to them that we are political soldiers. We're not mercenaries. You know?
So what's the time frames?
The time frames, we've given them 14 days to respond. As a matter of fact, we said within 14 days, the top 6 of the ANC must meet with us, because this thing of Jamaria, it's over. We've had commitments, we've had promises, we've had a number of engagements with different municipalities, the executive mayors, the premier, and other people, and all of them, they give you very nice promises. This is what we're going to do, and all of those things. And on top of that, we also want to say in Ekurhuleni, we've got a peculiar situation. We've got people who are called self-defense units, which we must say in this platform that those are our members that were trained by ex-combatants of Umkhonto weSizwe on the instructions of the late O.R. Tambo and our commander.
Self-defense units, as
Yes.
in paramilitaries?
Say again?
Paramilitaries?
No. That is a bourgeois concept. We are talking about self-defense
What's the
units.
difference?
Let me give you the
Yes.
difference. They were formed during the heated times when our people were killed in Kumalo Street, in Togoza, in Ngala, in other areas, in the other parts of the country. The ANC made a clarion call that make South Africa ungovernable, apartheid unworkable. It was the clarion call that was made by the late O.R. Tambo. And there was a response to that. It was led by Chris Hani, who said, let's form these units, let's arm them so that they can defend themselves and defend their families and their communities. So that self-defense, it's a historical issue. It's not a current...
Is it legal, though?
What was legal under apartheid?
No, but we're not talking about apartheid.
No,
we're talking about now.
They were formed
They
during
were formed then.
they were formed then, and they were incorporated into MK. It's part of the conference resolution of MK, the very first, which was administered by our former president Kgalema Motlanthe. There was a conference where it is recorded that self-defense units will be recognized as fully fledged members of MK, because they were units that were formed by MKMVA as part and parcel of the underground structures.
But I think you will agree.
They are not some adopted child from somewhere.
But you know that the record keeping
what about it?
Was not optimal.
The record keeping?
Yes. In terms of the integration, who came from where?
Thank you.
That was not optimal.
That is why, if you read the document, our memorandum, it states that we want to open up again the process of integration, because our people have been sidelined through processes.
How old is your youngest member?
Say again?
How old is your youngest member?
Well, I cannot say it out of my head, but what we know is that that process ended up somewhere in 1991. That process. So anybody who will claim that is a self-defense unit member beyond that process is telling a blue lie. And Sakina, please get us correctly. We are not here promoting or supporting wrongdoings that are committed by other people, wherein if my son or my daughter wants to benefit, they must come in as beneficiaries, and we must be straight and say this one is a beneficiary of Comrade Bafana, is not a member. So what we are saying is that there is also a narrative that seeks to rubbish our genuine concerns by saying we are recruiting little children, we are putting them through the processes. If there's anybody who's doing that, Sakina, I'm saying it here on record, that the law must take its course.
Okay.
Where there is a wrongdoing, the law must take its course. The only thing that I will tell you, in our database, we've got dependents, beneficiaries, and we state it as such to say these are dependents. Then we've got fully fledged members like myself.
We're unfortunately out of time. We have to leave it there, but you said 14 days, so hopefully you will come back in 14 days and tell us whether you've received a response and what the way forward will be.
By all means.
Thank you so much to Bafana Mahlabe, who's the Gauteng provincial spokesperson for Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association, for talking to us about their march to the ANC headquarters in Johannesburg yesterday. And as he says, time for Jamaria is over. So we'll see in 2 weeks' time how far they have moved. Time for news now at 7.